The Department of Justice is ordering its prosecutors to probe local efforts, meaning state and local efforts to obstruct immigration enforcement. Why? Because guess what? This is one area where the United States of America, federally speaking, has total jurisdiction over the states. So the states can't just do whatever they want. Say, oh, well, we're a sanctuary state. We don't have to comply with this. We can hide everybody. Tom Homan said, look, you can't. And if it means going into schools and churches, so be it. Here he is speaking on Fox saying these roundups of criminals, illegal migrants, they have begun.
No, it started. ICE teams are out there as of today. We gave them the direction to prioritize public safety threats that we're looking for. So we've been working up the target list. There was some discussion about Chicago because the specific operational plan was released. So we had to look at and reevaluate, does this raise officer safety concerns? And it does. Mm-hmm. But we've addressed that, and teams are out there effective today.
Okay. So Letitia James is not too happy. Of course, she says she's going to fight it.
I will not fear Donald Trump. I have steel in my backbone. And the reality is I will not allow this person, Donald Trump, who unfortunately is a broken man, to get in the way of progress and to separate us.
Okay. So you see where she's going with this. Like, it's very clear where she's going with this. She already telegraphed that. In fact, just a short time ago, here's Letitia James after the election saying they were preparing for exactly what you're seeing.
And lastly, I congratulate the President-elect Donald Trump. And if possible, we will work with his administration. But we will not compromise our values or our integrity or our principles. We did not expect this result, but we are prepared to respond to this result. And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before, and we use the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
Okay, you may run into a few problems along the way. She's going to run into problems. And by the way, Gavin Newsom and his AG, take a look at Rob Bonta out in California, echoing a similar sentiment.
Good on.
That's right. We've been preparing for weeks and months. Our ability to move quickly with our briefs and our filing, and many states working together is proof positive of that. The president did make a promise on birthright citizenship and revoking it, and I made her a promise too, and I'm keeping it, that I will see you in court when you break the law and violate the U.S. Constitution. That promise applies here, and it applies to any other action that he takes. We're looking closely at his other executive orders, including trying to use the military for civil immigration enforcement activities on American soil. We're looking at some of the other executive orders, how they impact our transgender communities. And so we expect this not to be the first overreach and unlawful and unconstitutional action by the president. And every time and any time he violates the law, it violates the U.S. Constitution, we will see him in court and we will stop him.
Okay.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta, thanks so much for being on the show.
Okay, Robbie.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And Letitia, I hate to break it to you guys, but there is this thing called the Constitution. And there is Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1, which gives the federal government control over migration and importation. I will read it to you. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. While this clause originally referred to the transatlantic slave trade, it demonstrates that Congress does have the power to regulate the movement of persons after 1808. The one thing that the U.S. can do from a federal level is control its borders and control who is here. We can also control our treaties and our foreign relations. So, the Commerce Clause as well gives the federal government tremendous power here. I mean, if you can't, as a federal government, control who's coming in, who's here, if California says, well, we want to bring these people in, well, then let California go be its own country, okay? Otherwise, you're in violation. You're in violation of the Constitution. You're in violation of the law. And it's almost as though these people are trying to set us up for some kind of constitutional crisis. I mean, AOC out there trying to say, well, you don't have to pay any attention to this because it's Trump. Excuse me? Here she is, the full soundbite.
And one of the most simple things that we can do is just not comply. Today, the Trump administration, and also last night, the Trump administration signed a bunch of illegal executive orders. For example, Donald Trump tried to sign an executive order to end birthright citizenship in this country, which is part of the Constitution. It is day one already trying to shred the foundational documents of American society and try to end birthright citizenship, which basically, as we know, if you are born in the United States, you are a United States citizen. That remains, that is the law, that is the Constitution. And he just tried to sign a piece of paper trying to say no. We don't have to listen to him. It's illegal. We don't have to treat this seriously. It's a joke. And that's not to say that what they're trying to do isn't serious. It is serious. But we should not consent in advance.
Whoa. Okay. So actually, you're going to have to take that one to court, and the courts will have to decide on that one. But as for everything else, guess what? We do have these powers that are vested in the federal government. I'll give you another example where the Supreme Court has already ruled, actually back in 1889, that the federal government has the power to regulate immigration. This case was confirmed in Che Chan Ping versus U.S. in 1887, and again, Arizona versus United States in 2012. So here's the deal. You guys are going to have to get on board with all of it, or else, well, Mike Davis, when he told Benny this, he wasn't kidding. He was talking about Letitia James. It applies to Letitia. It applies to the AG out in California. It applies to members of Congress like AOC that just think you can ignore everything. You're going to find your fat, what's in the slammer.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
Boom.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike.
Boom. Justice Department again directing prosecutors to go after state and local officials who are getting in the way of this immigration enforcement, because they are effectively getting in the way of the law. They're getting in the way of the Constitution.